Hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Some people treat other humans like accessories, nice to have around when convenient, disposable when they're not. Today on rSpace, a lesson in how some people will happily sabotage the lives of those who trust them most. Wife didn't bring my car back before an important exam. Found out she was cheating. I shocked her with a divorce and destroyed her livelihood. I, 30 male, had been married to Jillian, 29 female, for 5 years. We got together in college, and it didn't take very long for us to realize how in love we were with each other. That was why it was only a few years after we graduated that we chose to tie the knot. I wish that I could say that things have been happy ever since, but the fact that I'm writing this here means that it's obviously not the case for us. Some necessary background. I work in the corporate sector, and if you know how things go there, it can be pretty high intensity. It's the kind of industry where you actually can benefit from going above and beyond, so I take my work very seriously. My hope is that I can put in all the work near the middle and bottom of the ladder, and then be able to coast and enjoy my life a bit more once I'm closer to the top. I explained that to Jillian, and she understood, but despite the amount of late nights I spend at work, I always make sure to honor days she wants to be home early or when she wants us to go and do something. Jillian doesn't work a traditional job. She has always loved cooking, and so she chose to start a food business. She started selling on social media like Facebook Marketplace, but at a point, we realized that it would be better if she got a physical location since that would get more eyes on her and her product is genuinely good. We found out that rent is crazy in our city, so I went to the trouble of going to the other side of the state to drive one of my uncle's old food trucks down, since those are also crazy expensive, so this was a massive favor. There was a lease agreement, she spruced it up, did all the necessary registration for the business, and she's been operating out of it ever since. Now, because we're not exactly rich, we only have the car I use. She can drive the food truck, of course, but that's not the kind of vehicle you drive anywhere unless it was an emergency. So sometimes, when I don't have anywhere I'm going, she borrows the car to run her own errands or to see friends. Obviously, that's not much of a problem for us. It eventually did become a problem, which is why I'm writing this. And to say I'm not still really mad about it would be a lie, because I am. I had a very important professional exam that I needed to write. It was especially important for me because I knew how much it was going to improve my chances for promotion, and that was something I really need. The exam was going to be on a Monday, and the weekend before it was spent studying intensely. She said she went to go and see some of her girlfriends in town, so she asked if she could borrow my car. Obviously, there was no issue with that, and being alone at home was only going to help me focus, so I gave her my keys and she left. Here's where the problem was. She left at either 1 or 2 p.m., and by the time it was around 7 and I checked my phone, she hadn't sent a message or anything to explain where she was or when she'd be back. Again, I was too focused on my studying to bother more than that about her, so I told her that it was fine. I just made sure to let her know that I needed the car to get to my exam the next day, so she couldn't have too much to drink. Otherwise, she'd have to take a taxi and leave my car in what could potentially be a very inconvenient spot. She told me she understood and she'd be back with my car that night for sure. I ordered dinner, kept reading, ate dinner, and then kept reading until about 11 p.m. or so. I had spent the entire day studying, so it wasn't really surprising to me when I eventually fell asleep right where I chose to spend 5 minutes to rest my eyes on the couch. When I woke up, it was just before 6 a.m. and the first thing that I did was go upstairs to check the bedroom. The thing is, when I passed the dining table, all my books were still scattered across it, and she'd usually help me by tidying them. So I wasn't surprised when I got upstairs and saw that she wasn't there. When I checked my phone, she sent a message saying that she was sorry that she had drunk too much, but that she was going to be back before I had to leave. She apologized profusely. I like things being well planned, so her new change was really stressing me out. However, I realized that all I could do was get ready for the day while waiting. So I did everything I needed to do so that as soon as she came, I'd be able to get going. I hate arriving for exams right on time. I prefer being there at least 30 minutes early. By the time I was done with everything, including eating a toasted bagel, I had about an hour to the exam. I messaged her at first, and when she didn't answer in 2 minutes, I called her, but she didn't pick up. I called like 5 times in 10 minutes, but she didn't answer once. I started to panic pretty badly. My thought was that my wife was blackout drunk somewhere and my car was somewhere I had no idea of. I was tempted to take her food truck, but honestly, for a professional exam, that was a line I absolutely refused to cross. I would look like a joke. It was going to take me at least 20 minutes to get to the location for the exam. I was standing on the street, hoping I could see her coming when she called. The first thing I asked her was where she was, and she just kept apologizing. I had to cut her off sharply because I just needed to know where she was. She said she was on her way. I asked exactly where she was, but she kept dodging the question. I could hear the traffic, so she wasn't lying, but I assumed she was far away, and she didn't want to let me know that she wasn't going to make it in time. I gave it some more minutes, but once I only had 30 minutes left, I had to download Lyft and call one. I was really panicking as I was signing up, and I kept making mistakes. Eventually, I signed in and ordered a ride, only to see that it was 15 minutes away from me. At that point, I called a friend immediately. He was at work, and I begged him to find some way to pick me up and take me to the exam location, since his work was like a 7-minute drive away. Shout out to my man, Emmanuel, because he found a way to slip out of work, get to my place 7 minutes later, and he sped like hell to get me to the exam location with 3 minutes to spare. I explained the entire situation to him as he drove, and he said that we'd talk about it after my exam. I was able to get to the exam venue, and since my phone wasn't with me during it, I had no idea whether my wife had tried to reach me. To say I was pissed off would be an understatement, and it kept pulling my attention from the exam as I was writing. But eventually, I was able to finish within the time limit, and for now, I can only cross my fingers and hope that I passed. I'll find out in a few days. I could afford to wait for an Uber on my way back, so I did that and went back home, since I had the whole day off from work. My car and the food truck were both in the driveway when I got back, so I knew that Jillian was inside. I guess she saw the car drop me off because she opened the front door before I got there, and her face was obviously apologetic. I was fighting to hold myself from blowing up at her. "Babe, I'm really, really sorry," was the first thing she said, and I just replied by telling her to wait until we got inside the house. Once we did, I forced myself to keep my calm and I asked her what had happened. According to her, despite what I had said, she had had too much to drink, and because of that, one of her friends who had less to drink that day drove the car. They went to the friend's place where she slept and had the chance to sober up. She said that she overslept, and as soon as she woke up, she came towards our place as fast as she could. I asked her why she couldn't tell me where she was when I asked. She said she didn't hear me say that. She claimed that the line must have been broken up at that point, but it didn't sound convincing to me. In fact, the entire thing at that point sort of just broke down in my mind. I knew that it was a risky thing to ask, but I asked her to tell me who she was really with. There was a hesitation that pretty much confirmed my suspicions, but she said that she was with her friend as she had said. I didn't believe her, and that was the first point when I felt that she had to have been lying about where she went and who she was with. I let the conversation slide at that point, but I know that I'm going to find the evidence that I need. I'm so convinced at this point that there is another man. I hope to God it isn't, because if that's the reason why she couldn't get to my place on time and ended up almost making me late for my exam, well, we'll see what happens. Edit. Oh, and I found out I passed my exam, so that's fantastic. Doesn't make me any less angry about the whole situation. You're out here grinding for your future, and she's out late dodging your calls, even if she was just out with friends. The level of carelessness when she knew how important your exam was, that's a massive slap in the face. And the bad connection excuse? Come on, that's not a dropped call. That's way too suspicious. You went through hell trying to make it to that exam, and she couldn't even be straight with you. Congrats on passing, though. At least one of you passed something that week. Update 1. I found out the truth, and I did it with Jillian's laptop. I guess she had no reason to think that I'd be able to figure out her cheating through there. After all of her sleazy behavior was on her phone. Thankfully for me, I know a lot more about modern tech than she does, and the Google account that was signed in on her laptop's browser was enough for me to figure everything out. I needed to know exactly where she was that day, so I checked her timeline for that day on Google Maps, and it showed that she left the house and went to a bar, as she had told me that she would. Then, she went to a residential neighborhood that was nearly 40 minutes away from where we lived. The bar was only about 15 minutes away. As far as I knew, not a single one of her friends lived that far away. The next thing I did was go to Google Photos. She took pictures when she was in the bar, and it started with pictures of her and her friends. But then I went to pictures with her friends, and some guys. One of them had his arm around her, and they had some pictures that the two of them alone had taken. The last set of photos was her in an apartment, and I could see the guy in the kitchen in the background. She had lied to me. Some people might say that you need strong evidence that she slept with the guy, but I don't. There's no reason why a married woman would choose to go into a stranger man's house. He wasn't anyone I knew, and it was clear that she had just met him at the bar that night. She had chosen to sleep with a random man, sleep over at his place, and then nearly F up the exams I was meant to go for. Then she came and lied about it. I documented everything that I could. I kept checking to see if there was anything else I was going to be able to find, but that was pretty much all of it. I was tempted to check her phone to see if she had messages with him, but to be honest, I don't really care. He was a one-night stand, and she is going to be my ex-wife soon, so I'd rather just focus on getting the divorce ready to go. I've met a divorce attorney already. Papers are ready, and she's going to be served. My hope is that it is going to hurt her as badly as it needs to. She doesn't deserve to escape the pain that I've felt. Edit. I had Jillian served at her food truck, which I'm sure was very embarrassing since she had customers in line when it happened. She told me. She didn't call or rush home though. She came back at the usual time, and obviously she was confused because she thought I was still a clueless fool about the whole affair. She asked me whether I was really divorcing her because I didn't bring the car before the exam. She said she was sorry several times already, which fair enough, she had. I confirmed that it was about the car, but I told her that it was about the real reason why she hadn't brought it on time. She asked what I was talking about. I told her that I knew what she had done that night, that I knew where she had been and what she had gotten up to, and I knew why it took her so long to get back. At that point, she didn't have much to say. Her mouth twitched like she wanted to say something, but she didn't say anything in the end. She was being careful. She didn't know what I knew. I asked her which friend she had stayed with. She mentioned a female name. I told her that wasn't true, and I wasn't going to give her a second chance to lie to me. She told me that it was a guy that she met at the bar. She started crying, and then she swore that nothing had happened between them. She said she was too drunk to drive, and he helped. That was all. I shouted at her that she was a liar, and she flinched. She started crying even more at that point. I was drunk. She was crying like crazy, and that was all I needed to hear to know that she had slept with him. She said that very little that had happened. She said she had stopped him. She said she regretted it. She just kept trying to make it less bad than I knew it actually was. I told her to pack her things and leave the house. That part was hard because she kept begging, but eventually she did. Thank goodness. Next up will be the official divorce, and I hope it goes smoothly. Update 2. My divorce from Jillian has been finalized, and you won't believe how happy I am to say that. The divorce was one thing, but I also had my own touch of her personal pain after that. And I think that part makes me even happier. When it came to the divorce, I knew that I wasn't going to get the upper hand. I had some major evidence pointing to her affair, but sadly, it doesn't seem like that was going to have swayed things anyway, which pissed me off. I managed to keep the house, though it was only rented. However, the judge awarded her my car and a limited alimony. The food truck was leased, so it didn't even count in the whole thing. The whole thing was such an oblivious loss for me, and I was the one who chose to stay faithful. I guess it is true what they say about how the courts always favor women as if they're innocent angels or something, even when there's clear wrongdoing. I won't lie, I was very bitter about the divorce. One of the first things I have to do was fork over money to get a new car, and because I was going to have alimony to think about every month, I was going to have to be more frugal than I wanted to be. It was at that point that I realized I wasn't going to let her win. She didn't deserve to get away with everything. I knew at that point that I was going to hit her where it was going to hit her very hard, and the best part was that I had every right to do it. The food truck that she used for her business belonged to my uncle. He leased it to her so that she'd be able to use it for her business, but it was too expensive a thing for him to give her entirely. They had a lease agreement, and she paid what was basically a symbolic $500 a year to lease it. However, the agreement allowed my uncle to terminate the lease with 1 month's notice, and a full refund of the amount paid for that year. The old man was very hesitant to play a part in everything, as much as he hated the fact that she cheated on me. He said that I would be destroying everything that she had built, but I told him that he needed to forget about that. She had nothing to do with our family anymore, and there was no reason for her to keep reaping the kindness that she got solely from her connection with me. It was hard to convince him to do it, but he eventually did. He gave her official notice, and I gave him the money for the refund. She called me, and the first thing she asked was whether I had put my uncle up to taking the food truck back. She knew he was a kind man, and even if he felt she didn't deserve it since we were divorced, he would have let the lease lapse. I admitted that I did have something to do with it, and she screamed at me. She said that I was ruining her life, and she asked me how that was fair over a single mistake that she had made and deeply regretted. I told her that she knew everything she was doing when she made that mistake, and she knew that it was going to hurt me. She still did it anyway, for a drunken night of fun. I told her that I resented her for ruining our marriage and that she didn't deserve any of the perks that I had given her. She decided to switch to begging, but as soon as that started, I ended the call and blocked her number. I will sort out her alimony payments without contact, and I can't wait for when my payments will be complete and I'll have nothing to do with her. I hope she has the kind of life that she wants to have, but it won't be with the things that I was able to bring into her life. She has chosen to do things on her own power, so let's see how that goes for her. Serving her at the food truck and taking the lease back is cathartic and totally fully deserved. She built that business on your family's goodwill and then pissed on the investment. Court didn't hand you everything you deserved, but you got the truth and you got out. That's the real win, OP. You dodged a future where you'd be normalizing that kind of disrespect and gaslighting. Be petty if it feels good. Block, cut off, rename playlists, whatever it takes. What's the biggest red flag you've ignored in a relationship? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon!